On this episode of Maritime Insights from a Deck Officer, we are going to be looking at this Dutch cargo ship that got stuck in the Northwest Passage, which is a remote Canadian Arctic area. This is from the company Wagenborg. The ship is the Thamesborg, and I actually worked for Wagenborg on a little bit smaller vessel, but also through icy areas. So we're going to be looking at, the ship's details, its current location, what kind of cargo did it take, but we'll also be looking at why did it take this risky route, and we'll see if the crew is safe, if there is help underway. So let's get started. So this is the current location of the Thamesborg, and you can see they were about halfway through the Northwest Passage, which is a passageway over North America. And they were on their way from Lianyungyang, China, to Baicom, Canada. And if you look on the map, the Lianyungyang is about in this area right over here. Then they made their way up over here into the Arctic, and they were trying to go through the Northwest Passage over the top, and then here into the St. Lawrence, and then to Baicom, which is right over here, Baicom. Here are some more details about the Thamesborg, which is a general cargo ship with a Dutch flag. I've sailed for Wagenborg on the Vancouverborg, which was a bit smaller size. It was about 40 meters less in size and didn't have any cranes. But the current draft is 9.6 meters and the maximum is 9.4, so it was fully loaded. It was loaded with carbon blocks, high value cargo, and it was on their way to East Canada, to Baicom. Then the length was 173 meters. Here you can see the past track through the Northwest Passage from the past 7 days. And then if we scroll further down, we can see that it had a dead weight of 21,359 tons. Here are some more details about the Thamesborg from the actual company website, Wagenborg. It is a double-skinned ice class 1A ship. And obviously when you go to the Northwest Passage, that is what you need to go there. Now, Wagenborg is a pioneer when it comes to the Northwest Passage shipping, but also in the Baltic. A lot of their ships, I would say most of their ships, will have an ice class 1A, because they do a lot of shipping in the Baltic area and other icy conditions as well. So they are very familiar with that. I actually sailed on 2 ships for Wagenborg in the Baltic. One of them we went through the ice, and the ice was about 3 feet thick, so it's about 1 meter. You definitely need a class 1A ship to go through there. If we scroll further down, we can see it was built in 2012. And it has the ice class 1A, and it has 16 people on board. Now, why do more and more ships choose to go through the Northwest Passage, which is riskier because there's ice conditions, it is shallow, it is not very well charted, it's poorly mapped out. So why do they go all the way over the top? There are a couple of reasons, but most of it is, of course, it is a shorter route to go that way, and it saves you about, in this case, for the route, about 3,500 miles, nautical miles less than if you would go the traditional way through the Panama Canal. The other thing is that it will save you about 14 days. It is about 30 to 40% better than going the traditional route through the Panama Canal. Also, you have to pay a lot of fees to go through the Panama Canal, so that's also not favorable. So those are the main reasons, obviously, economic reasons. So then the port of Lianyungyang is right over here, and they were going up this way up into the Arctic over the Northwest Passage, and they were trying to go over here to the east coast of Canada and go to the St. Lawrence River and to their final destination. Now, if you look at this map, then you would think, okay, well, that looks like a long way around to go here instead of going over the Pacific Ocean through the Panama Canal and then go up here, right? You would say that distance is maybe the same or maybe even a little bit shorter than going all the way here over the top. But this is because world maps are mostly have a Mercator projection. So the Arctic regions look a lot bigger than they really are. If you look on a globe instead, then you can really see that the distance between the east coast of China and the east coast of Canada is actually a lot shorter than through the Northwest Passage than if you would go the traditional route through the Panama Canal. Now, you cannot always go through the Northwest Passage. There's only about 3 months of the year that it's possible to go through there. But if you can, it's shorter, but it's also riskier. But I'll show you that it is less distance than the Panama Canal route. So this is their port of departure here in the Yellow Sea. So then they made their way up here into the Arctic, and then they went to the Northwest Passage. This is where they got stuck right over here. That's where they ran aground about halfway through their passage, and then they were wanting to continue here over the east coast of Canada, and then over here into the St. Lawrence to Bay Como to their final destination port. Now, if we go back, or we can actually go from this way also. No, let's go from the actual port of departure, which is right here. Now, if they would go through the Panama Canal, they would leave here. They would go to the Panama Canal all the way across the Pacific Ocean, which is a long way. They would have to go all the way south here, then through the Panama Canal, then make their way through the Caribbean, go with the Gulf Stream up the east coast of North America, and then all the way up here and then into the St. Lawrence. So as you can see, that is a lot more longer route than going to the Northwest Passage, and that's why they choose to go that route when it is possible. Depending on icing conditions, ships will have some choices about what route they will take through the Northwest Passage, but it looks like they took route number 4, which goes right through here, and then they got stuck right there halfway through the Northwest Passage. But depending on icy conditions, you could determine if you would take a different route. But as I mentioned before, this is not all without risk, because these are poorly chartered waterways, poorly mapped. There are shallow areas. There's a narrow time frame of about 3 months that you can go through here. So there's also environmental risk if something goes wrong. You are in a much more remote location for help. So yeah, there are pros and cons, but yes, it is shorter, and yes, it will save you time, so it is more economical. There also have been some previous incidents of ships that ran aground or got stuck in the ice, so it is not all without risk. But let's have a look at where the ship is currently at and if there's help on their way. Now, the Thamesborg ran aground on September 7th, which is about a day ago, and we can see that 2 ships have arrived there, the Sir Wilfrid Laurier and the Jean Goodwill, which are both Coast Guard vessels. Here we can have a look at the Jean Goodwill, which is an icebreaker, anchor handling tug supply vessel converted to a medium class icebreaker for the Canadian Coast Guard. So yeah, that is good that is in that area, so it can possibly free it if need to be. But I've heard from the report that the ship did not have any fuel leakage or oil leakage, or any tanks were punctured, but the vessel was taking in some water in the ballast tanks, so it was breached. And then the other ship is the Sir Wilfrid Laurier. It is also a light icebreaker and major nav extender of the Canadian Coast Guard, built in 1986. So yeah, those 2 ships are now on location with the Thamesborg. The 16 crew members of the Thamesborg are all safe. The company Royal Wagenborg has put out a statement that they're all safe and no one is injured. Now the irony is that the ship was taking a shorter route, which would also save in emissions. Now the fact is that it was carrying carbon blocks and they were going to a aluminum plant in Bay Como from Alcoa, and smelting operation from aluminum is one of the most carbon intensive industries in the world. So now what? You know, the Thamesborg ran aground and we know that some ballast tanks were taking in water, so they had a puncture somewhere in the hull. They were breached, so it would not be smart to just pull it off, because it probably is on the rocks and not just on a sandbank. If it was on a sandbank, it would probably not have punctured any hull structure, but it probably ran aground on some rocks, and if you then pull it off the rocks, you could even do more damage. So I'm sure they are going to send in a team for underwater divers to inspect the hull and to see how the ship is laying there on the rocks, and come up with a plan to get it off and get it back. Yeah, who knows? I really have no idea. That's why I'm going to keep a close eye on the news that comes out about the Thamesborg, and I will definitely update you. So if you subscribe to the channel, then you will get that update. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and you're probably going to be interested in this video right over here as well.